Continue now with our lead story, big lies affecting all of us. Joining us from Washington, Charles Krauthammer. So you heard my talking points in the interview with the doctor. You say?
Look, I think I'm feeling a little bit more mellow than you are. Of course, that's not unusual. But there's another untruth that's out there about law enforcement. You might call it a lie. I think it's more of a myth. And that is that the sentencing is disproportionately rough, the automatic sentences, the mandatory sentences, and are aimed at blacks. The fact is that those sentences were imposed in the 1990s with Bill Clinton as president, probably the most anti-racist president we've had in our lifetime, genuinely not a racist, and was supported by the Black Caucus. It was aimed at crack cocaine, which was utterly devastating neighborhoods, most particularly inner-city neighborhoods. Now, there's some people now, left and right, Republican and Democrat, who a quarter century later say it's draconian, perhaps it overshot, and of course it's less serious. There are other epidemics right now. But that's myth number one.
But the reason the crack epidemic subsided was because of the stringent sentencing, and then the people got out of that business.
I agree with you.
But
it's no coincidence.
No, it wasn't a coincidence, and it worked.
When you increase the incarceration rate, you decrease the crime. You know the famous headline in the New York Times which said, crime rate drops, yet imprisonment rises. And the New York Times ran that as a puzzle. And it wasn't until paragraph 15 that they said, well, there is a theory that if the criminals are in jail, then perhaps the crime rate will go down.
Okay. Now, the myth, if you want to put it, I say it's a lie, all right, that big-time narcotics traffickers are nonviolent. When you see all of the devastation, physical devastation wreaked on people, yes, nobody forced them to buy the stuff. But if you consider that, as Barack Obama does, a nonviolent offense, you're living in a world of your own. You are not in the real world.
Look, I agree with you completely. And compounding that myth, or lie if you prefer, is the idea that somehow the majority of these drug offenders are guys who are smoking dope.
I know. It's less than 1%.
Having a joint. It's 1%. And it is, if you look at all the incarcerations in the country, they're overwhelmingly, of course, in the state and local prisons, 87% of all prisoners. The majority of those are violent crimes.
That's right.
20% are property crimes, and you got 13% are drug crimes, 16% are drugs, of which 12 of the 16 are drug dealers. 3.5% are drug users.
And the users,
as Heather McDonald points out,
we got to give her credit.
A plea bargain.
Yes,
absolutely.
they plea bargain down from the dealing to the possession, and they let them do it. Now let's get the case law.
They make it sound like it's a guy with a Friday night toke.
So it's a fraud. It's a lie, a fraud, a myth, and it's being perpetuated by the President of the United States. Now here's another one: Kate's law. Can you believe these people out in San Francisco saying that because I would like to have a mandatory sentence for somebody who defies deportation with an aggravated felony conviction, that I'm demonizing gardeners and house painters? This is what they're throwing out there? That is an outrageous lie. An outrageous lie.
Well, I'll get less mellow on that one, because that is obviously an untruth. And it's also a slander, because you are not talking about ordinary illegal immigrants. You're talking about felons. In fact, the only objection I have, I support Kate's law, but I think more important, because Kate's law is so narrow, it's not going to have a large effect. The sanctuary cities is a much larger issue,
and I hope that gets
passed,
but you got a much harder problem. But here's the thing about Kate's law that you may be overlooking. Number one, gives law enforcement a tool to break up the drug gangs, because many of them are run by people who have been deported, okay, with aggravated felony. So number one, they can go in and break these foreign drug gangs up. Number two, it's a deterrent for coming back here. It's a deterrent. When these people know they're going to be picked up when they come back, and they're immediately going to go for 5 or more, all right, maybe they won't come back. But last word on
Bill, the last word is this. A bigger deterrent is to know that if you go to any of these 600 jurisdictions, big cities and small towns, where they have declared in advance they're not going to cooperate with the law of the land of deportation, that is the biggest loss.
But that's a big battle we have to fight because of the Democratic Party. It's a big battle.
That's hanging a sign outside the U.S. saying, come on into these cities.
We are a country of anarchy. Come on down. All right, Charles, thank you very much. We appreciate it.